Hey guys, so today I'll be reading the first official chapter of the book called Quiet by Susan Cain after reading the introduction. And I won't make this video too long, probably make it like 15 minutes, so that's not too long. So let's get into it. So, chapter 1. The Rise of the Mighty Likeable Fellow. How Extroversion Became the Cultural Ideal. The date, 1902. The place, Harmony Church, Missouri, a tiny dot-on-the-map town located on a floodplain 100 miles from Kansas City. Our young protagonist, a good-natured but insecure high school student named Dale. Skinny, unathletic, and fretful, Dale is the son of a morally upright but perpetually bankrupt pig farmer. He respects his parents, but dreads following in their poverty-stricken footsteps. Dale worries about other things too: thunder and lightning, going to hell, and being tongue-tied at crucial moments. Just like me. He even fears his wedding day. What if he can't think of anything to say to his future bride? One day, a Chautauqua. One day, a Chautauqua speaker comes to town. So the Chautauqua movement, born in 1873, and based in upstate New York, sends gifted speakers across the country to lecture on literature, science, and religion. Rural Americans prize these presenters for the whiff of glamour they bring from the outside world and their power to mesmerize an audience. This particular speaker captivates the young Dale with his own rags to riches tale. Once he'd been a lowly farm boy with a bleak future, but he developed a charismatic speaking style and took the stage at Chautauqua. Dale hangs on his every word. A few years later, Dale is again impressed by the value of public speaking. His family moves to a farm 3 miles outside of Orangeburg, Missouri, so he could attend college there without paying room and board. Dale observes that the students who win campus speaking contests are seen as leaders, and he resolves to be one of them. He signs up for every contest and rushes home at night to practice. Again and again he loses. Dale is dodged, but not much of an orator. Eventually, though, his efforts begin to pay off. He transforms himself into a speaking champion and campus hero. Other students turn to him for speech lessons. He trains them, and they start winning too. By the time Dale leaves college in 1908, his parents are still poor. But corporate America is booming. Henry Ford is selling Model Ts like griddle cakes, using the slogan, "For business and for pleasure." J.C. Penney, Woolworth, and Sears Roebuck have become household names. Electricity lights up the homes of the middle class. Indoor plumbing spares them midnight trips to the outhouse. The new economy calls for a new kind of man, a salesman, a social operator, someone with a ready smile, a masterful handshake, and the ability to get along with colleagues while simultaneously outsigning them. Dale joins the swelling ranks of salesmen, heading out on the road with few possessions but his silver tongue. Dale's last name is Carnegie. Carnegie, actually. He changes the spelling later, likely to evoke Andrew, the great industrialist. After a few grueling years selling beef for Armour and Company, he sets up shop as a public speaking teacher. Carnegie holds his first class at a YMCA night school on 125th Street in New York City. Hey, I go to the YMCA, but in Boston. He asks for the usual $2 per session salary for night school teachers. The wise, the wise director, doubting that a public speaking class will generate much interest, refuses to pay that kind of money. But the class is an overnight sensation, and Carnegie goes on to found the Dale Carnegie Institute, dedicated to helping businessmen root out the very insecurities that had held them back as a young man. So, in 1913, he publishes his first book called Public Speaking and Influencing Men in Business. In the days when pianos and bathrooms were luxurious, Carnegie writes, man regarded ability in speaking as a peculiar gift, needed only by the lawyer, clergyman, or statesman. Today, we have come to realize that it is the indispensable weapon of those who would forge ahead in the keen competition of business. Carnegie's metamorphosis from the farm boy to salesman to public speaking icon is also the story of the rise of the extrovert ideal. Carnegie's journey reflected a cultural evolution that reached a tipping point around the turn of the 20th century, chasing forever who we are and whom we admire, how we act at job interviews, and what we look for in an employee, how we court our mates and raise our children. America has shifted from what the influential cultural historian Warren Sussman called a culture of character to a culture of personality, and opened up a Pandora's box of personal anxieties from which we would never quite recover. In a culture of character, the ideal self was serious, disciplined, and honorable. What counted was not so much the impression one made in public as how one behaved in private. The word personality didn't exist in English until the 18th century, and the idea of having a good personality was not widespread until the 20th century. So what? Were there robots back in the day? Like, I don't know. Maybe that term wasn't used too much by then. But when they embraced the culture of personality, Americans started to focus on how others perceived them. They became captivated by people who were bold and entertaining. The social role demanded of all in the new culture of personality was that of a performer, Susan famously wrote. Every American was to become a performing self. The rise of industrial America was a major force behind this cultural evolution. The nation quickly developed from a agricultural society of little houses on the prairie to an urbanized, the business of America is business powerhouse. In the country's early days, most Americans lived like Dale Carnegie's family, on farms or in small towns, interacting with people they'd known since childhood. But when the 20th century arrived, a perfect storm of big business, urbanization, and mass immigration blew the population into the cities. In 1790, only 3% of Americans lived in cities. In 1840, only 8% did. By 1920, more than a third of the country were urbanites. We cannot all live in cities, wrote the news editor Horace Greeley in 1867. Yet nearly all seem determined to do so. That's real. They want to explore. Americans found themselves working no longer with neighbors, but with strangers. Citizens morphed into employees, facing the question of how to make a good impression on people to whom they had no civic or family ties to. The reasons why one man gained a promotion or one woman suffered a social nub, writes the historian Roland Marchand, had become less explicable on grounds of long-standing favoritism or old family feuds. That's crazy. In the increasingly anonymous business and social relationships of the age, one might suspect that anything, including a first impression, had made the crucial difference. Americans responded to these pressures by trying to become salesmen who could sell not only their company's latest gizmo, but also themselves. One of the most powerful lenses through which to view the transformation from character to personality is the self-help tradition in which Dale Carnegie played such a prominent role. Self-help books have always loomed large in the American psyche. Many of the earliest conduct guides were religious parables like The Pilgrim's Progress, published in 1678, which warned readers to behave with restraint if they wanted to make it into heaven. I'll be right back. The advice manuals of the 19th century were less religious, but still preached the value of a noble character. They featured case studies of historical heroes like Abraham Lincoln, revered not only as a gifted communicator, but also as a modest man who did not, as Ralph Waldo Emerson puts it, offend by superiority. They also celebrated regular people who lived highly Moral Lives, a popular 1899 manual called Character. The grandest thing in the world featured a timid shop girl who gave away her meager earnings to a freezing beggar, then rushed off before anyone could see what she's done. Her virtue, the reader understood, derived not only from her generosity, but also from her wish to remain anonymous. Yeah, we'll stop here for now, but I'll make another part of continuing chapter 1 in another video. That's it for now.